except for Al-Qaeda, which terrorist organizations killed the most Americans? Hezbollah. They killed 241 Marines. They tortured CIA officers. They sent shaped charges into Iraq and blew up Americans. And now all of a sudden, they're afraid to answer their cell phone. They're afraid to turn on their television set. All of a sudden, they brag about their 150,000 rockets. No one is safe. They can be 60 feet down in a reinforced concrete bunker, and the Israelis can hit them. Part of this is the admiration for Israeli ingenuity and audacity. Nobody thought they could ever pull what they've done off. Nobody had ever heard in a James Bond novel anything like the pagers or the walkie-talkies, 4 or 5 years in its genesis. Nobody believed that you could blow up Nasrallah 60 feet below in a single block attack. Nobody thought you could get rid of this hierarchy in Damascus and Tehran. Nobody believed that you could knock down, I mean, to be candid, if somebody sent 180 hypersonic ballistic missiles into San Francisco, we could not knock them down. I don't think London could do it. I don't think Paris could do it. They can do it. So there's a lot of new admiration for their competence. And I think there's a sense, even in Europe, especially in places like South Korea and Japan, that deep down inside they feel the Israelis are doing the world a favor by neutering Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and they want them to go ahead and deal with Iran. Because as you know, a lot of Europe is in range of Iranian missiles. And if they should go nuclear, the first thing they would start to do is threaten European countries for concessions with the implied threat that they could reach them with their rockets. But Israel's showing the world not to be, I guess what I'm trying to say, John, is Israel is conducting a tutorial for Western nations and peoples and saying, do not be afraid. You don't have to fear these people. You are strong. You are technologically superior. You are more moral. Don't feel guilty. Reply and create deterrence. Stop these people. They're anti-civilizational. They're medieval. And we're going to show you how to do it. And please help us. If you don't help us, we'll still do it for your and our benefit. And that's a pretty powerful message.
Do you think Israel has effectively rewritten the situation in the Middle East to the point where we'll now talk about pre-October 7 and post-October 7?
I think so. First of all, never in the history of the Jewish state has so many civilians been killed. In fact, more Jews were killed on October 7th than any single day since the Holocaust. And then it was the manner in which they were butchered and the sheer hatred. We've never seen, I mean, we hear about these things in Rwanda and things, but nobody thought in Israel babies would be incinerated or limbs would be locked off or women would be mass raped or hostages would be taken into subterranean labyrinths and murdered. It was a level of atrocity that was shocking. And then the reaction of the left and the university crowds in Europe, the United States, was equally shocking. And I think in a way, Israel redefined itself, and it came to its senses and said, there's not going to be any more 20,000 laborers coming in and working at extra high wages, and we're not going to worry about that anymore, and we're not going to reach out because these people have an existential hatred. And our success is not going to be a model for them to emulate. It's going to be an object of envy and hatred. And they hate us, and they'll always hate us. And the only way that we can survive and maybe convince them not to hate us is to be so strong and unpredictable that they would not want to attack us. And that's a big change. When you look at polls in Israel and see the Israeli left, I mean, Netanyahu has been criticized, but it's mostly from people who think he should have been tougher. There's not really a peace movement in Israel anymore, other than maybe concessions to get hostages back. But the Israeli left has been discredited, and Netanyahu is on the rebound, if you look at his polls. And yet the criticism against Netanyahu is coming from the right, that he's not being retaliatory enough. So yeah, it's marked a change. I think it's made a big change in the United States among the American Jewish community in general. I think they feel that the left wing really does despise Israel and is anti-Semitic, and more importantly, their allies in the diversity, equity, inclusion movement have been at the forefront of anti-Semitism on these campuses. And when you look at the professors, there's been an intersectionality in the hatred of Israel, that the gender studies, the gay studies, the black studies, the Hispanic studies, the Native American, all of these people tend to be very anti-Israeli and anti-Semitic. That's the perception, I think, growing in the Jewish community. I think it'll be reflected at the polls. Instead of 80-20 or 70-30, it's going to be 60-40 or 50-50.